Hello, everyone. My name is Brittany Lewis. I'm a professional graphic designer and illustrator. And Sundays is the day that I do my favorite thing in the world, which is to work on the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. So today is no exception to that. We're going to pick right back up with the Three of Cups, and we're going to go from there. But before we get into what we're going to get into, if you would like to support myself as an artist, support this channel, please be sure to hit that like button and hit the subscribe if you would like to see more. And let me see, I'm listening to myself to make sure everything's good. But one other way that you can support me and this channel is by visiting, hey PL, is by visiting my website, blewisarts.com, where you can pick up all kinds of merchandise and art journals, canvas prints, posters, all of the things are available there. And all of the links for that will be linked in the description below. All right, so let's get into it. So this week, we are back with the Three of Cups again. I have made quite a bit of progress on this particular card, just sort of over the week, but I still have not finished it. So we're going to work towards completing this card today. But just to fill you in on some of what I've done, I have worked on the background a little bit. I have given the little girl her shine, her glow, because we've talked a lot over the weeks about this being the light source for this card. So I've gone on and done that. If you would like to catch up on some of the progress and sort of watch me work through that, please check out Wednesday stream, which is quiet, very chill, but just work and listen to music. So if you prefer a stream like that or just like both, be sure to check me out through the middle of the week. But last Wednesday is when we did it around 3:30-ish or so. And I worked for about an hour and a half, just sort of putting together bits and pieces. So as I said, that we have been using the little girl sort of as our light source for this. And I just wanted to show you what that means in the grander scheme of creating this picture. So what that does is it lights the rest of our characters in a very specific way. It also lights the ground in a way. So as I was working last week, I just sort of thought that maybe having this scene set place in water would be nice. So we'll be working a little bit on that because it's just preliminary right now. Just have sort of the baseline of a base idea of water. Her shine is reflecting in the water, but there still needs to be quite a bit of work done so that it looks like they're not necessarily standing on top of water, not affected by it, but are actually sort of in it, right? So it's all a part of the same scene. So we'll work through that in a little bit. The other thing that I did was I used an element from an image that I had created in 2023. It was a portrait that I was commissioned to do. And I liked the headpiece and I needed something round around my main character. So I brought that in and I'll show you what that looks like. I brought that in and I adapted it for this particular picture. So this is a portrait that I completed back in 2023, and I really liked her hat. Like I loved her hat. I love the picture in general. It's probably one of my favorite portraits that I've done to date. And when it came time to sort of do the flowers around our main character, I didn't know exactly where to go with it. I didn't really feel like painting flowers. I didn't think it was necessary, but I did want the idea of something floral and something full around her head. And this picture to me was like the perfect representation of that. And so I just borrowed it. And you guys will witness me do that quite a bit as we develop this project. And as we go along, because I've done so much work over the years, some things are just unnecessary for me to have to draw again, right? So we're going to close this up and then we're going to get to work. I haven't even tested my pen. Let's make sure this. Okay, we're working. We're good. All right. So did that, and again we sort of worked a little bit with the lighting. After looking at this now, there are a few little effects and things like that I would like to play with it. So I don't know if we'll get to that today, but we'll by the end of it you guys will see sort of all the tweaks and things like that I've done. But I did want to set this outside. I think that it was always going to be an outside scene, but I had the pleasure of seeing Sinners this week, and I was inspired by the sort of sense of community in this one particular scene. And I won't spoil it for you guys, but there's a very strong scene. It's the scene that most people are talking about. And when I came back to look at this image reminded me of that. So I wanted to channel some of that. And I think that movie, if you have not had an opportunity to see that, please do. And please do it on like the biggest screen you possibly can, because we had an opportunity to see it in IMAX. And it felt like we were immersed in this world, right? And so I've seen lots of great chatter about that movie. Lots of people are inspired by it and are thinking a lot about it. And so when I came back, I was like, you know what? This reminds me of that movie. So I wanted to continue to play on that. And so I hope that this deck has the impact on its audience that that movie has had on its audience, right? All right, so I think the first thing I want to do today is just go ahead and knock out one of these cups. If I do one, I can kind of duplicate it and do the other, so I'll do that first. And it looks like the grandmother's, I would say the grandmother's cup is probably the most full. So I'll go ahead and do hers, and then I'll be able to sort of copy and paste it. So I'll show you a little bit about how that works. Now, last episode, I believe we talked a little bit about the symmetry ruler, because I was painting the face of our little girl. And one of the easiest ways that you can paint a head-on face and you want it to be symmetrical is to use the symmetry ruler. I didn't really like to do that with faces. It kind of depends on the situation, because I don't think everyone's face is like perfectly symmetrical. So I think that a little bit of asymmetrical qualities are necessary to me to sell the idea that this is a drawn face. But in the idea of this cup, I don't think it's necessary for me to have to like paint both sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my cup layer. I'm going to select it. It's going to select all of the cups. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to do a new layer. I'm going to select this particular cup. I'm going to clean it up, and then I will show you how I do a gradient, and we will sort of try to make this cup very similar to that of the Knight of Cups, and I'll show you that in just a bit. And we'll go from there. So again, I hope you all have had a great week this week. I have had an interesting week. It's been I'm in my own personal sort of having a tower moment. Just for a little bit of transparency, I'm having a tower moment, a big one. And so it's been interesting. But going to see that movie really sort of was the highlight of my week. If you haven't, I think for me, one of the things that I love, and I'll try not to get into spoilers because I really would like for you guys to see it for yourself. But one of the beautiful things about that movie was that I could see a lot of myself, right, in that movie. I saw people that I knew, you know what I mean? Not personally, but like people who matched the characters. From the main character who was son of a preacher, right? And he was like they didn't mention this, but sort of it was shown in the very first scene where he was the oldest of his siblings working in the cotton field. My grandfather was the oldest of 13 siblings and had to work in the cotton field. My father told me that he was not able to get an education because he had to work in the fields, and that character in that aspect of his life reminded me of my grandfather. One of the twins, one of the characters that Michael B. Jordan played reminded me a lot of my granny's father, who was a World War I veteran as well. So, and I actually have a newspaper article where he came back from the war and had sent home a whole bunch of money and was not able to get his money. They wrote a newspaper article about it. They didn't believe that this black man, had so much money. And so that sort of thing, being able to sort of see yourself, being able to see your history as someone who grew up in the American South, who has family in many of the states in the South and have ties to many of the states in the South. It was very, very interesting to be able to, witness that and see someone, speaking of Ryan Coogler, who absolutely you could tell is very serious about what it is that they do. All right, so just me running my mouth. I forgot to actually set up the symmetry ruler. So what I'm going to do is find the center point in this ruler. I'm going to call this the middle. It is going to set up a line, and whatever I paint on one side will show up on the other. So for right now, what I'm going to do is erase what I've done, and I'll show you a little bit about what that looks like. So I'm going to erase, just sort of clear out everything because I only did that much. And what I'll do is grab my brush, and then we're just going to brush over, right? And so this will make this cup symmetrical. And what I'll do from here, I'm just sort of laying down the base of this cup, because what I will do from here is select the shape and then fill it in with a gradient. And I'm not really concerned about it going over the thumb because we can clean that up a little bit later. And there's a real easy way for me to do that as well. So I'm just going to draw this in as however I like, right? However ornamental I would like. I'm going to turn this off just so I can kind of see what's going on. There we go. And I'm just going to fill it in, right? So that is the beauty of working in digital work. You sort of get these shortcuts where if you want something to be perfectly symmetrical, you want something to reflect the same on both sides, you can use rulers and guides and things like that to help you out. So I'm just going to fill this in again with the base color gold. And this is just the gold that we laid down with our flats layer. And I'm going to fill everything in. And as soon as it is done, I will turn off our symmetry ruler and then I will select it and go into adding a gradient. So I'm happy to have you guys here. If you're here, don't forget to say hey in the chat. I would love to know you're here. I'd love to know who you are and where you're from if you like. But if you again like a more quiet, chill live stream, midweek live streams are the streams for you. Sinners. It definitely lived up to its hype. I think that it was by far one of the best movies I've seen in a long time. It was just so well done, and I think that there were so many nuances in that movie that it was just done with such great care, right? And if you're a scaredy cat and you don't really care for horror movies, I don't know that I would consider it a horror. Because the horror elements they just weren't that scary, right? I would consider it more a thriller with horror elements to it. All right, so what I've done is I've grabbed my gradients. Now over to my right-hand side where I'm moving the mouse up and down, I have some gradients already done because I've done this quite a few times. I can actually go copper if I wanted to, but I think that would be too close to her skin tone. So I'm just going to go with this gold color gradient that I've created. I'm going to actually zoom out a bit and I'm going to play with it. It may take me a few times to get it close to what I would like for it to be. So if I were to do something like, if I was to draw a short line like this is sort of how it would look. If I wanted to do something like this, where it's a little more subtle, then I would draw the line out further. So I'm just going to play around to see what I like, what looks good, what feels good. That feels good right there. So from here, what I will do is I'm actually going to finish this cup, right? And then I will duplicate it for each of my characters, but each one of them is holding the cup differently. So I don't want to go ahead and cut out her fingers and things because when I move this cup for my other characters, their fingers are going to place differently. So what I will do is go ahead and add just a little bit of detail and information. As a matter of fact, do I want to do that? Yeah, I think I want to go ahead and finish the cup. And then once I finish the cup, then I can go from there. We'll go from there, right? Because if we pay attention to our Knight of Cups, the cup that he has, it starts off with a gradient that sort of gives me the baseline, right? But I added some, oh, where'd it go? There it is. I added some nuances to sort of the bottom area, right? As well as to the rim. So we'll get there. We'll do a little bit of that and then go from there. All right. So again, if you have not had an opportunity to see that movie, please do. It is absolutely worth the hype. Of course, there are always going to be people who don't like it or like it. Or people are going to get whatever they're going to get out of it. I've been really enjoying the discussion around it, right? Because again, people are seeing themselves in it. People are seeing their families and things like that in it, and it's good. It's real good. I'm hoping that they put that bad boy out on Blu-ray so I can get a copy of it. All right. So what I'm doing before I go any further is I'm checking to see if I like the color, right? So if I like the color, it looks okay. It looks okay. All right. What I'm going to do is actually go back to this. We're going to grab that gradient again and play around with it. And this way we're in a sort of we're looking at it from a broader perspective instead of so close up, right? Because again, this is going to be on a card, and I want to make sure that it reads the way I need it to read, right? So I like that better, and what I would do is sort of add some of the color from the bottom. All right, that's better. All right. So I did actually bring along some of the cards because we've talked a little bit about what it's going to take to publish this deck. And I want to show you guys here in a bit as soon as I do this, what the card size is this one, right? So if you're unfamiliar with this project, this is your first live stream with me. The Cosmic Gateway Tarot is a deck that I started back in November of 2019. And in creating this deck, initially I had no plans. You guys, I didn't say this time. I didn't even know at the time that tarot deck was coming in standard size, right? Because I had a couple decks at that time, and I think two were the same size, and one was different. I liked the different one better, right? I like the size of that one better, and it ended up being the size that I chose to go with. This is going to be slightly larger than your standard size deck, and it's going to come with a guidebook, just like a regular old deck. And I'll show you here in a bit. As soon as I sort of get happy with this, you know what? I should have did this a separate layer. There we go. Yeah, so this is going to be a slightly bigger than average tarot deck. And that is just personal preference. There's really no rhyme or reason. It'll actually cost me less to produce if I were to do it at a standard size. I don't know. I just sort of like what I like. You know what I mean? And I want to create a sort of premium reading experience. And so I've put a lot of research and I put a lot of thought into what I would like the end product to be. And I'm really, really happy with how the images and things like that have come up. So far I have about 35 cards complete. I will have a total of 78. I know initially when I was thinking about this, I was like, yeah, I'll do an 80, I'll do an 80 card deck and it'll be great and all of these things. But it takes a lot of work, right? It takes a whole lot of work to do. The illustrations is just one part of it. So I've had a lot of people who have come to me about creating their deck for them. It's a lot of work, right? So if you are an artist and you are being approached to do something like this for someone, just sort of take into consideration that you are creating 78 individual cards. That's 78 illustrations. You can do a clone deck where it looks exactly like the source material, whether that is Tarot de Marseille, whether you're coming up with your own system, whether that's Rider Waite, whatever you're doing takes a lot of thought, right? And so if you're doing this for a client or for someone else, you also have to take into consideration their sort of wishes. So it is a lot involved. It's a lot involved, but I would not trade it for the world. It is definitely a dream project. And it's something that kind of keeps me going, even when I'm like down and out. You know what I mean? Even when I'm in my tower moment, as I've been this week, even when I'm going through all of those things, just being able to work on something that I wanted to do, or have wanted to do for so long, is a blessing, I feel. So I'm really, really happy and, happy and honored to be able to do something like this or to feel called to do something like this. So I do enjoy it. All right. So I'm just adding again some information to the cup. I don't necessarily want to go too super detailed because again, this is going to be on a card. I'm just sort of adding the inside, right? And within this, there are going to be some reflection going on. So we might have some lines or something like this, right? And we can clean all of this up a little bit later. We might have something like that, just sort of based on the cup that we've already created in the Knight of Cups, just sort of using that as a template, right? And then I can take my smudge tool and smudge some of this out, right? So that it looks like the inside of a cup. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Again, this is going to be on a relatively small printout. But I do want to make sure that it's quality enough that if I decide to blow it up, then it still looks good, right? All right. All righty. And then from here, I am going to zoom in just a bit, just to be able to see what we got. Just to be able to oh, okay. Thank you, Black Z2. I'm so happy to see you. Black Z2 says the audio was distorted and it's clear now. I hadn't even been paying no attention. I just run in my mouth. Thank you so much, Black Z2. All right. I hope that is clear. We've had some storms, so I don't know if that's affecting the internet or not. So we'll see. We'll just work with it. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. All right. So we're just going to clear this up. Clean this up just a bit. And then add some detail like so. And I appreciate that. So if you guys are watching and you hear the audio is distorted, don't be afraid to tell because I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea what it sounds like. So if you hear it messed up, please do me the solid and let me know. I appreciate that so much. All right. Okay, so here's cup number one. I don't know if I want to add too much more to it. From here, what I'm going to do is combine my two layers. That is the one with the ruler and the one with all of the details. It may not be perfect. I might come back to it. I might not. We'll see. But from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this all over my image, wherever it needs to go, right? And then we can rearrange things as they go. I'm going to grab it and hit Alt and drag, and it should duplicate it for me. like that. Let me turn on my old cups just so I can arrange it the way that I need to arrange it. And then for each one of our characters, I will modify the cup in a way that looks like they're actually holding it. So shadows will go in a certain place, highlights may go in a certain place, and so on and so forth. But I just want to get a pretty broad idea, pretty good idea of where this needs to go. That looks good. So I'm going to call this Mother's Cup, Crone's Cup. And then we're going to do the same thing. Just kind of grab this and change it just a bit. Now, the only thing about this is that because we're creating distance or depth of field in our image, the cups may not all appear to be the same size, right? I guess it really doesn't matter because we want them to be seen. But if I was doing this for accuracy, I would actually make the grandmother's cup, the Crone's cup, a little bit smaller than those closest to the camera, right? So what I'll do is go ahead and do that actually and make it just a little bit smaller. And it looks like it's going to auto save because I'm getting a little bubble. And while it does, I'll actually show you guys the images that we've done so far for the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. And then what I'll do is just take a little bit of a break from the drawing and show you the actual sizes of the cards. So these are the images for the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. So far, again, I've done about 35. This is the 36 cards. So I have about 42-ish left to complete. It's coming along. I'm hoping it's playing. I can't tell if it's playing or not. I'm going to step out on faith and hope that it is. Let's try it again. There it is. All right, there it is. So yeah, there are about 35, 36 cards that I have created. So there are quite a few cards, right? So some of the elements will repeat themselves. The only reason I did not use the cup from the Knight of Cups is that there was too much information missing because he was holding the cup a certain way, right? So it made better sense for me to just draw it and to tailor it for the scene. There will be many, many times that I will grab elements from different cards that I've already completed and just different artwork in general that I've already completed just to sort of make the creation process go a little bit faster for myself. I've already drawn the stuff, right? So for some things, there's no real reason for me to draw it again. So that's sort of how that works. But what I will do is make myself just a little bit bigger so I can show you the size of the cards. Now, again, this is going to be a 78 card deck, right? Now, your standard tarot deck is about this size. I think it's 70 by 120 millimeters. This is a test of the Cosmic Gateways Tarot that I did at the standard size. This is the strength card, so kind of get an idea of where the borders would be if I were to go to the standard size. This is the right way. They're about the same size, right? All right. What I would like to do is go a little bit big, right? And I base the size on a very specific tarot deck. A basic tarot just like US because I like the size, right? When it comes to creating a tarot deck, because I'm going a little bit beyond, I'm just not doing the standard size and that standard size for tarot deck. It's going to cost me a little bit more to produce, but I just want to make what I want to make, right? So Pro Tarot looks like this. So this is the size of Pro Tarot, and again, this is a test print of the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. This is the Queen card, so they're about the same size or so. Now, if I wanted to put this against a standard size deck, this is a standard size print strength card, and this is the size of the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. Just to give an idea of the size difference, it's just a little bit bigger width-wise and lengthwise, right? I like the larger size, and you get a little bit more artwork, right? So I think if I were to go this route, it's fine. Everything's been sort of created in a way that even if I decided to publish, let's see, there it is. Where is it at? Even if I decided to publish at the standard 70 by 120 millimeters, you would still get quite a bit of information, like not too much would be cut off. But I just like the larger size. Now, the only thing that I am sort of debating as I move through these cards is whether or not I will have the borders. I like the borders. I don't know if they're necessary for this particular deck. We just have them there as well. PL says check the audio. I can't check it, PL. Do it good or not? I hope it sound all right. If not, then we'll sort of wrap this up because I don't know how good or bad it is. So you'll have to help me out with that. In the meantime, let me show you what an oracle card looks like, right? So this is your standard size oracle deck. This is from the animal spirit oracle, right? So this is going to be even bigger than your than the size that I would like to go. Well, this is a standard tarot deck, so even bigger, right? If I were to go this route, no extra charge, it would just be the size of an oracle deck. But I wanted to go sort of the odd size. So I hope it's well. PL, if you're there, please let me know if you can hear me okay. And we'll go from there. All right. In terms of creating the guidebook will very much be like a standard guidebook. So we have a couple different styles here that we have. So the accordion style guidebook, which is probably the less expensive to create. It just kind of folds a piece of paper, right? And then you have perfect guidebook, which is something like this. Okay, so much, I appreciate you. I don't know what's going on with audio. I'm hoping it's not too bad. All right. So anyway, thank you so much. But yeah, this is our standard guidebook, right? So this is the size about this size, about this thick, maybe a few pages less. This will be how the guidebook will come, and that'll be just with the tarot deck itself. From there, you'll have the option of purchasing the companion book, and then after that, you'll see if we do second and third editions and all of that. But I really have a goal to be able to produce like a really quality deck, right? So I'll for sure produce the one that I have in my dream, and then I will do maybe a mass market printing if it goes well with the first version. So we'll see. All right, PL says that on audio. PL, if you could do me a solid and stay on for a little while and let me know if it goes out again. If it does too bad, we'll probably wrap this up here, and then maybe we'll try it again a little bit later or later this week. But I appreciate you both, Black Zetsu and PL, for letting me know because I don't be knowing. I have no idea. Okay, it's breaking up again. Is it bad? Like, is it breaking up like uh crackling, or is it just going in and out? Help me out. I'm hoping it's not too bad. If it is, like I said, we'll just wrap this thing wrap this thing up. Maybe come back a little bit later today or tomorrow. But I have no idea. I know. Okay. Thank you so much, PL. I know that we've had some storms, and I just had a feeling that it would be something, right? So if push comes to shove, though, if you guys are not able to hear me, what I'll do is turn on the music, and then I'll just draw, and then I'll just kind of come back. That way, we still get our live stream in. It's an echo. Okay. Huh. I don't know. Is it still there? I don't know. Okay. We'll see. Because what I might do again is just turn this music on, work, and then I'll come back and do a little commentary. But we'll see how it goes. All right. So that's sort of the size. Hopefully that much was clear for you guys to be able to see. And if not, we'll come back next week and talk a little bit more about it. All right. So let's get back to these cups. What I'm going to do from here is I am going to get rid of my old cups, just so they're out the way. And then for each one of my characters, I am going to cut out where their hands go, right? So I can do that a couple of ways. I can select each of the characters, but what I'm going to do is actually lower the opacity and then just manually erase. All right, so let's do that. And then what I would do is just sort of erase the information that I don't want. And I actually can do this on a masking layer. That way, if I change my mind about what information I want to show, I don't have to draw that part back in. Okay, thank you so much, PL. I really appreciate you. I really, really do. I don't know why it does that. I know that anytime I've had a storm come through, because it was storming right before we started, there's an issue with like the internet connection. I don't know if it's the internet. I don't know if it is the streaming service that I use. I'm not really sure. So we'll see. Maybe I'll do some experimenting and try some other things and see if it works out. All right. So what I've done is just sort of erased the thumbs, right? And I'm just going to paint the parts back in that I want to add in, like so, so that we have a full, just a full representation of where her fingers are placed. And I just need to add more skin tone there, looks like. Mm. Oh, what did I do? So with a mask, anytime I want to remove something, I just sort of erase it. And anytime I want to draw back over it, then I can just draw. I don't have to worry about setting the colors up or anything like that because it's just going to fill in the parts that I've already erased. So that looks good. And then what I'll do is raise the opacity back up. And that's sort of what we're looking like. And then if I need to, do I need to? We'll fill in some of these areas a little more opaque. And we'll go from there. Yeah, thank you again so much, PL. I don't be knowing. Child, I just be running off at the mouth and talking. I have no idea what you guys can or can't hear. So I appreciate all of your help. That helps me out so much. All right, so we're going to do the same thing here where I'm just going to lower the opacity and then I'm just erasing away her fingers, right? The parts that are gripping onto this cup. And if I need to move it, this helps me as well. If I need to move it a bit, this looks like it could use being moved. Not too much because there's missing information there. Maybe I'll tilt it. So something like this. So we'll make adjustments where we need to. Because I had the flats in, some of the information is going to be missing, right? And information meaning the parts in her hands that I did not include, that kind of thing. So yes, we want to keep this. Then we're going to add a layer mask, and then we're just going to erase away. So it's going to be really nice to have. I think the finished product of the Cosmic Gateway Tarot because I've put so many years into this project, put a lot of years into it, and also just a lot of myself. Again, this is sort of even just working on it during this live stream has made me feel a whole heck of a lot better today. Just working, you know what I mean? So I put so much of myself into this, and I am so proud and happy to be able to create something that I want to see. Right, just like I feel like with the Sinners movie, that was a movie that Kugler wanted to see. That was something that he wanted to see, so he created it. And I think that that is a testament just to being comfortable with yourself, right? And brave enough to sort of tell your own story. Let's lower this opacity here. And then we're going to add a layer mask. Oh, we already did. And then we're just going to erase away. So, yeah, I love the fact that you guys are watching it. And like I said, I really appreciate it that you could tell me that this audio is messing up because I promise you I don't be knowing. All right. Yeah, so to have it done, and which is why also I do a lot of the test prints, it helps me to visualize it as a finished product. And I think that is so important because I've worked on it for so long, right? When it's easy and quick and easy and you're getting that sort of instant gratification, then it's, you don't go through the highs and lows and the self-doubt and all of that in the middle of the project because you get it done really quickly, right? But for something that I've worked on for many years at this point, right? Sometimes there are days when I'm not really sure whether or not it is worth it to continue. Sometimes there are days when I'm not sure that I am doing the right thing, right? And so you go through all of these sort of mental stresses and battles and all of that. So to be able to just be brave and do it anyway means a whole lot. Now, I'm running into a little bit of trouble and I'll show you just about where and why. What I ended up doing was because we had our old cups layer that I erased a little bit earlier, I had painted the hands around those old cups. But because I drawn a new cup and had done something completely new, I am finding information that I need to go and correct specifically right here in her hand. Right, so where there's this black line that was a shadow for the old cup, so we'll go ahead and adjust that in a bit, but we're going to continue to sort of make our adjustments to where we want the cup to show up, right, and where we want it to be placed, and then we'll go from there. Oh, so wrong thing. Let me go to B and just brush this area back in like so. And then when we raise the opacity, we'll be able to see what's what a little bit better. All right. All right. So I'm going to go down to my maiden skin, and everything is layered and labeled. So the labels really, really help out a whole lot. I just got to find the right layer, and that will help me to make sure that um, this looks the way I want it to look, right? So in this area, we actually want this shadow to move here. We actually could put this whole thing in shadow, right? And we can just sort of move the goalpost with her hand, like so. Same here, right? And then we will do that with our other characters as well. So if we're going to zoom out, let's zoom out and see what these cups look like. Let's see if they need any adjustment, any improvement. If the brightness is right, if the color is right. And let's see what we have, because right now it's rotating. There we go. All right, so we have our cups, right? Now, because we have, again, our glow from our little girl, some of these cups some of the lighting is going to change cup to cup. So we can go in and make those adjustments, but it looks really, really good, right? Everything fits, looks good. We're getting closer and closer to completing this card. So I think the next card that I'm going to do is going to be the Three of Swords. I think that's going to be the easiest, just because I have no idea yet what I want for the for the Three of Pentacles. We're gonna get there. I had an idea, and it was one of those things where I did not write it down. And because I didn't write it down, I don't remember what the heck I was thinking about doing. So we'll figure that out as time goes. The Three of Swords should not take as much time. I do believe I have a solid plan and a solid idea of what I want to show for that particular cup, for that particular card. So we'll figure it out and go from there. Now what I'm doing is adding in some of the lighting from the little girl's glow, right? So remember, we want to emphasize, or we want to sell the fact that this little girl is glowing and that her glow is affecting the things around her. So we do that just by adding some of the light. Now I did want her to glow pink. I do have some pink elements in it. It's not necessarily as strong as I would like, but it is sort of present, and we can beef that up a little bit later. But I want to emphasize those colors and emphasize the fact that it is glowing by adding those things to the objects surrounding her, right? So the sage may not pick up the glow as much. The tambourine picked it up a little bit, right? Because she's a little bit closer to our character here. So that's where you see the pink at the bottom. But the cup, because it's a little bit further away, may not pick up as much color. So we just want to pick up just a little bit. We want to emphasize it, or not emphasize it. We just want to place it in the scene, right? And remembering that this cup is a reflective surface. And then from here, we will, tailor it as we see fit. Now I'm grabbing my smudge tool, and I'm going to lower the size on it because I don't want it to be too textured, right? But we do want it to show that we're picking this light up, right? And again, we'll have to go in and erase away where the hands are. And we can even erase some of the glow. We want to knock it back a bit, right? And maybe we pick up some of this white because she's glowing pretty brightly. We're just going to play with it. And there's no real rhyme or reason. I can actually go and look up a cup. I can probably just use the cup that I have here because I think that it's done really well enough that I can kind of get an idea of how this should look. And I think I should use this as my reference now that I'm talking about it out loud. You know what? Let me do this. Let's start over. There we go. Sometimes you got to start over. All right. So keeping in mind that I want to add. Let me do this. Let me add some shadow. like so. And then I want to bring the shadow down, just like we have here in our cup here. So I want to bring the shadow down a bit because when we're looking at metal that's shiny, like I'm looking at this mic that's shiny also as a reference, it has dark spots. It's picking up some of the color from my screen. So this cup will probably pick up, of course, the pink. It may not be as bright, right? It might be a little more subtle. It's going to pick up some of this white. And then it's going to do the same thing up here, but it may not be as harsh, right? We're just going to lay in the color for now. And then I will go back and settle it out and clean it up a bit as I go. So let's soften up this area. And I'm softening it up using the smudge brush. I'm going to soften up these shadow lines. I'm actually going to extend this out like so. And I may even use a warmer color. Let me grab this warm color from my, there we go, from my Knight of Cups. And now we're starting to sort of get the idea that this is a reflective surface. And again, I want to add in that pink because the idea is that she's glowing a pink color. All right. PL, we still good on the on the audio? I hope so. Let me know. I'll check the chat a little bit more frequently because I saw you guys' message way late and I was like, shoot, I had no idea. All right. Like this. Right. And then if we want, we can deepen that. We'll zoom in here in a bit and we can deepen that shadow around the mother's fingers, right? We want to make sure that we don't have any of this excess color showing up where it doesn't need to. Something like this, right? And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. We just want to sort of emphasize the fact that it's picking up some of that color, which also sells the fact that this is a shiny surface, right? So what I just did was grabbed my blend brush, which is a little bit much more soft than the smudge tool. Grab that blend brush and I'm going to grab a couple of different colors here. And then we're just going to do it this way. Something like that. And I can take that same blend brush and make this. Thank you so much, PL. PL says yes, I appreciate it. All right, so it looks like it's gonna auto save again. So let's do it again. Let's look at our Cosmic Gateways Tarot one more time for the day and show you guys what those cards look like. Again, I have about 35 cards done. This is 36. So we have done all of the major arcana cards except 4. That is the Sun, Moon, Star, and the Chariot. I've done all of the queens. We've done all of the pages, all of the knights. I have not done the kings yet. I did start on them, but sometimes what happens is I'll start on something and then I'll sort of just not be inspired, you know what I mean? Which happens even with the common interpretations, even with all the information in the world. Sometimes it can be difficult to sort of come up with an idea. So it's kind of like creator's block. But when I go through that, the easiest thing for me to do is to just move on to another set of cards. So we have all of the, queens, pages, knights, no kings yet. I have all of the 2s done and we're working on the 3s, right? So quite a few cards. Still have quite a few cards left to create. So it's really been interesting. Sometimes I will have an idea for a card that I've just hold on to for years, right? I'll have something that'll come to mind, and I'll jot it down. I have these little note cards there, and sometimes they're doodles, sometimes they're fully fleshed out ideas, but the key is to draw enough information that my mind can sort of remember what I was thinking at the time. Sometimes that includes notes, right? The thing that has helped me a lot in creating so many cards for this project is to create them in batches. So right now we're working on the threes, and we've been on the threes for a while. This particular card has taken a lot longer than I would have liked, right? But that happens. I'll have cars that'll take me forever in 3 days, and I'll have cars that I can finish in 3 days. That's just sort of the nature of developing so many illustrations at one time. But as I move through it, like I said, one of the things that has helped me out a lot is to sort of think about the cards in batches, right? So if all of the twos have to do with duality and balance and harmony and all of those things, then I can keep that in mind as I go through determining what each card should look like. And when I do that, when I come to a conclusion of what each card means, what I would do is determine what that looks like in a scenario, right? So with the Three of Cups, for instance, I had a very great solid source material. So I'll show you here. This is the Rider-Waite-Smith Three of Cups. It is showing three women feasting. There are like pumpkins and, fruits and all kinds of things. They're dancing, they're having a good time. This is a card about community and celebration. And to me, it reads as like a sisterhood card. So when it came time for me to create the Three of Cups for the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, I wanted to keep in mind, I wanted to take in, or wanted to ask myself, what would that look like in this particular universe, right? What does that look like? And so it took me a little while. I had sort of a baseline idea, but I got to thinking about what the card reminds me of. Again, it reminds me of sort of like a sisterhood bond. And so with that, the thought came to mind of doing sort of an initiation process, because no matter what sort of culture you go into, different cultures will have initiations, and different religious systems and all of that will have ceremonies set to bringing people of age, right? So the coming of age ceremonies is what I'm trying to say. So I wanted to create a coming of age ceremony. And as I developed this card and began to think about this card, I wanted to put things within it that emphasized the fact that they were charging this young woman, or sort of bringing her into the society, but also giving her energy. And then she's giving them energy. So she is lighting them in a way, right? She is the light source of this scene. So she is giving them energy. They are also feeding that energy back to her. And so there's sort of a cycle situation. Now, that's me thinking a lot. You know what I mean? The average person may pick this card up and say, oh, Three of Cups, they, dancing and celebrating and having a good time in community and all of that. And that's perfectly fair. But as I develop these cards, that's sort of the thought process that I go through for each one. There are a few that are super close to the source material. I think this one is pretty close to the source material. Again, this is how that looks. This is the original. There we go. That is the original Three of Cups. So it's pretty close. I think there's a little more story to the Cosmic Gateways Tarot Three of Cups. And so that is sort of something that I try to strive for with each card. But again, there are some that are just close, right? They're pretty doggone close. And that's sometimes it's on purpose, sometimes it's just sort of how it happens, because what I'm keeping in mind also is the new reader, right? So, of course, this is going to be something open to all readers, no matter your level. But I do want to keep in mind specifically the new reader who's picking this deck up as their very first deck. And I want them to be able to use it and then study the source material. So if they're studying the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith interpretations, I want this to sort of go along with that as well. Plus, whatever their intuition and things like that is picking up. So that is the idea. And that's sort of the process. Now, throughout this live stream series, what we have done on a couple of occasions, I think with the twos and the threes, is I showed you guys what developing each card looks like. And I'll show you that here. Let's see if it'll open up for me. I hope when I do this, and don't cause no more no more issues, but we're going to do it anyway and see. All right, so let's go with the threes. The three developmental sheep. So what I'll do, again, is I'm creating these in batches, right? So I will say, okay, the threes mean this, right? And I'll show you what I've come to the conclusion of for that, right, in just a moment. But I'll say, okay, what is the baseline meaning of the number of the suits, right? So I list all the suits: cups, pentacles, wands, and swords. I say, okay, with cups, you usually are dealing with your emotions, the intuition, the hidden information, subconscious mind. With pentacles, you're dealing with people, relationships, sexual relationships, materialism, earthly things, right? A very three-dimensional reality. With wands, we're dealing with fire, we're dealing with creativity, passion, spirituality, all of those things in wands. And with swords, we're dealing with thoughts, the mind, the consciousness, your ego, your awareness. All of those things are taking place within the swords. From there, I break it down by element: cups of water, pentacles are earth, wands are fire, and swords are air. And then I say, okay, what does a three mean in numerology, right? Just in a broader numerological sense. What does a three mean? And then what does the three mean in tarot, right? So within these cards, they all have something somewhat similar. No matter what the suit is, there's a similar sort of definition, and it just changes degree based on the suit, right? So, for instance, the broader meaning of three in tarot is collaboration, goals being fulfilled, teamwork, and lessons learned, right? So, if you have a three of cups, you might have an emotional collaboration. You might have something that, again, fuels, like we're sending energy to this young woman in our three of cups. That is that kind of situation, right? With the three of wands, you're dealing with discovery based on the lessons that you've learned in the two of wands. So I go through all of this, right? We just gonna discuss all of the things as I am planning out these cards. And from there, I break it down even further, and then I come up with these sort of stick figures. And these are sort of the things that I draw on my note cards when I get an idea from for a card, just sort of out of the blue. I'll take a note card here. I got a stack of them right on my desk. I take a pack of note cards. These are blank note cards that I get from Walmart, and I will doodle on them and I will make notes. So I take that process a step further, and I will actually flesh out the ideas for these things as I go. So, like I said, I had the three of swords pretty much figured out. I had the three of wands pretty much figured out. That was the one that we did first. And then the three of cups, I had just sort of a baseline idea. The three of pentacles, I had no idea what I want to do. Right. But so that is the process of planning the cards. And I find, again, doing them in batches as opposed to doing them one by one helps to keep me organized. And it also helps to sort of streamline the creativity, right? Because initially what I would do is I'd say the first card I did, I went to my tarot, I was like, okay, what card should I start with? I'm gonna start now. This is what we're gonna do. What card should I start with? And I pulled the chariot. So I started working on the chariot. Chariot turned into the high priestess. And I was like, okay, well, what's next? Right. So let me pull another card. And so there was really no rhyme or reason as to which cards I would work on after I completed one. And so doing them in batches sort of helps me kind of cut that out, right? So anytime I can sort of cut out a stressor or cut out something that'll cause a kink or that may trigger a creative block, I do that. Let's cut all that out, right? So if I say I'm going to do threes next, then let's okay, I'm doing threes. So let me just go ahead and plan out the next set of cards and go from there. So that is sort of the creative process of going through again as I develop this deck. It is taking time. We do live in a world of instant gratification, so things are going to come out a whole lot. There's so many decks come out since 2019. Some of them have only taken a few months. I remember listening to Biddy Tarot, who produced Everyday Tarot, and I forget who published it. But I remember listening to the artist that worked on her deck, and she was like, "Yeah, I knocked it out in 6 months." And at the time, I had not started mine, so I was like, "Okay, cool, 6 months, we good." I was like, it usually don't take me long to do anything, right? Here we are, 5-6 years later. So I've seen people go as little as 6 months. I've seen people go take 2 to 3 years. That seems to be about the average, 2 to 3 years to complete a tarot deck. It's taking me a lot longer. It's just me. And I want to take my time to make sure that I get something or I complete something that I'm happy with, right? And so, yeah, welcome to the show. So that is my process. In every project, because I've been a professional artist for so long, the process of creativity is pretty much the same no matter what I'm working on, right? When I'm working for clients, it's a little bit easier because I have someone else to sort of bounce ideas off of. So if I'm having a consultation and someone's like, well, I'll give you a great example. I had a food truck. There's a guy his brother I had worked for quite a few years ago, done plenty of work for him, and he recommended his brother to work with me. So his brother was setting up a food truck in Los Angeles, and he wanted to create a logo, or he wanted to create a single logo for his food truck that channeled Memphis, right? I live in Memphis, Tennessee. He wanted to channel Memphis. And so I was like, okay, so as I'm talking to him, and he's describing to me his goals and things like that, ideas are forming in my mind, right? Because I have someone who is sort of feeding me that baseline information, and I'm able to take that and interpret it into an idea. Now, that one logo turned into three because I was able to give him three different perspectives of how we can approach this problem and how we can solve this goal, or get to this goal, right? And so when I'm working with clients, it's very much a collaborative process. So I'm able to talk about and sort of again bounce ideas off of the people I'm working with. When I'm working by myself, it's just me. So it does take me a little bit of time sometimes. And then on top of that, ideas will come to me in all kinds of different ways, right? So I'll be inspired by all kinds of things. For instance, adding the water to this card was heavily inspired by the movie Sinners. Of course, we talked about that a little bit earlier, going to see Sinners. So, yeah, it's just just gotta take its time, right? All right. So what I'm going to do as I'm wrapping up, running off my mouth, is I'm going to go on back into this cup, and I'm going to darken up some of the shadow area underneath her nails. Actually, you know what? What I might do before I do that is I might go ahead and soften up some of this reflection, right? Soften some of this up. And then if I want to, I can go back and, make parts harder or not. You do that. And then what I want to do is deepen the shadow between her fingers. So something like this. Something like that. And then that sort of lets us know that she's holding on to this thing, right? And so I will take, if it's too hard, I'll go back, and we're doing push and pull, right? So I'll go ahead and push and pull and soften up some of this and move it down and around. And this is sort of how we will approach it. Now, if I want to make sure I have this in a good legible way, meaning that the eye can read what's going on, I'll just zoom out, right? So I'm going to add sort of a rim to the bottom of this cup. And then even that's going to pick up light, but it'll pretty much mirror what we have. Right. And also, this cup may even pick up some of the blue from the atmosphere. So we don't want to leave that out as well. We don't have to go super heavy with it. So, like, for instance, here in our Knight of Cups, he picks up some of the color of the horse, right? So we can do the same thing here. We can have a little bit of bounce light. It doesn't have to be very strong. It doesn't even have to be super opaque or anything like that. We just want to have a little bit of that show up. Yep. So I really, really, like I said, I really enjoy, I really enjoy working on this project because I'll get a chance to put so much of myself out there. I get to do a lot of research, right, which is always fun for me, where I'm able to uh, learn a little bit more about the cards because I've been a reader for a while. I've read cards for quite a few years, even leading up to starting this particular project. I had already had read cards for many, many years, right? And so I had my baseline interpretations. But sometimes, doing the additional research has helped me quite a bit because I learn a lot more about each of the cards um, next to my already developed sort of intuitive, you know, um, meanings, right? Not just intuitive because I also studied as well, but all of that kind of comes into play. All right, so it looks like, come on, friend. There we go. It's not showing up quite as much as I would like, so I'm gonna go just a little bit deeper. And what's happening is I'll put it in and then I'll sort of blur it out. I don't want to blur too much of it out though. So we'll do something like this. So as I've always said, if you guys have a project, and if you have a project and you want to come on here and talk about it, please do. Let me know. I love to sort of speak to other people who are creating things, not just so it's not all about me, right? Even though you guys are here to see me create, I would love to hear about your project. We have a couple of interviews. Actually, I have one interview in particular with deck creator Zajay Richardson, who has the podcast, Dots and Space Time, and I'm hoping that she names her. I'm hoping that she names her deck Dots and Space Time because I think it's such an awesome name. But we had her on quite a few months ago. So if you guys are interested in sort of hearing the perspective of someone who is using a different medium to create, I would highly recommend checking that out because it was really, really nice to be able to talk and hear the process of another creator, right? I'm always a fan of, seeing and hearing about what other people are doing to create the thing that they want to see, right? So if you want us to check that out, just go to my, I might link it in the description, but if you would like, go to the live tab and just kind of scroll all the way down. It is the first interview with Ade Richardson. I would highly, highly recommend that. We had us a good time. We sure did. We had us a good time talking on that live stream. I've also done a couple of talks with Lee and Sam, which were really, really awesome. And they were creatives who are new to creating in the digital space. And so if you guys would like to check that out, I would highly recommend that as well. And that what I did was we did a little bit of talking about the process of creating and studying art, studying especially if you are a new creative or you're relatively new to digital art as a medium in general. I would recommend checking that one out as well. So this cup, because it is further away from the light, is not going to pick up as much of that reflective light from the little girl as our lower cup does because she's a lot closer, right? So the further you move away, the less it is going to show up right up in here. But because the mother's cup is a whole heck of a lot closer to the little girl, you'll see that a lot more here. And with her sister on this end, and I'll zoom in just a bit. Zoom in so that you can see both the light and the cup. In this area, I'm hoping this is showing up in the sister's cup. She's going to pick up the light a little bit higher up than her mother did. So it'll show up just a wee bit different. But we want to sell the idea that the little girl is lighting up this scene. And I want to showcase the idea that they're also feeding her energy. So by the time this is done, they will all sort of be intertwined together, and we'll definitely channel that sense of community and collaboration. All right, so going back up to my grannies, and you know what? I did that wrong because I did it on the wrong layer. But going back to my granny's cup, what I will do is, first of all, we're going to go ahead and combine what we just did to our mother's cup just to lessen the size of our file. And so I will do a new layer, and then we will go ahead and do the same sort of thing to the grandmother's cup as well. Yep. So what a live stream. I'm glad to have you guys here. So whether you're watching this live or the replay, I'm really, really happy to have you here. I would love to see you say hey in the chat. Thank you so much, Black Zetsu and PL, for letting me know again about that sound, because child, I don't be knowing. You got to be real specific with me because I don't be knowing at all. So I really, really, really appreciate that. Y'all be looking out for me, and I appreciate that. All right, so I'm just going to add some shadow right in here where it looks like her hand is sort of indented in, or just sort of holding on to this cup. And then from here, we're going to use that smudge tool. Going to pull it down and soften it up a bit. And that is, there we go. Something like so. And we can even, because it'll pick up a little bit of that light, not a whole lot, but it will pick up a little bit. We can sort of do something like this as we mimic the work that we've done, or the work that I've done on the Knight of Cups. And anything that I think is too hard of a line, I just take my smudge brush and smudge it out a bit. I can also just erase it, right? It just kind of depends. But a lot of this is experimentation. I have an idea of what I want to create, and then I just try things until I get it right, right? All right. So I hope you guys have been enjoying these live streams. Again, this is something that I look forward to every week. It is always a serotonin boost for me just to be able to share the process and to talk 90 miles an hour as I do and work on the thing that I'm so in love with and just sort of share the process with it and the behind the scenes as well. Now what you can do if you love this work, if you love the images that I've showed so far of the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, if you'd like to own some of that artwork, I have everything that I've created from the Cosmic Gateways Tarot available as a canvas print, right? So you can hang it in your room, and the way I like to use it, and because, and not to get too woo woo, because I don't know who's watching, right? But the way I like to use it is to sort of set the tone for a space. So, for instance, next to my desk, I have the Hermit and I have the Lovers as a poster print, like sort of on my wall. And then I have the canvas print of the Hermit here. And where you can't see on the other side here is the Lovers as well. Those sort of help set the tone, right? So, the Lovers for the Cosmic Gateways Tarot is a little bit different from the Lovers from the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot, which depicts sort of the Adam and Eve scene. The Lovers from the Cosmic Gateways Tarot depicts two beings, the mundane and the spiritual self, or the higher self, right? And so to me, that is a reminder to sort of reach for and channel those higher vibrational images, right? The higher vibrational thoughts, all of the ideas that come from my higher self as I work, because this is my workspace. I also have the Hermit because the Hermit is all about introspection. And one of the things that I am doing with this particular project is being extremely introspective. So those two set the tone for this particular space. So I have as well, I have strength that's around my house, right? And I have different things like that. So if I'm working sort of a money altar, for instance, if I'm doing something like that, I might have the Page of Pentacles. I might have the Wheel of Fortune. I might have some cards that remind me to sort of channel that or be reminded of the abundance that's around so that I can bring more abundance into my life. And so you can use those images in that way. And one, again, of the best ways that I can recommend doing it is with the canvas prints. And I also offer some of the artwork, not all, but I do offer some of the artwork as posters as well. So that'll be like the 11 by 17. And with those, you can get 11 by 17 inch frames from Walmart for like $6 or $7. And that makes it even easier to hang images and things like that up. So if you like these images, if there's something that you want to have and you don't necessarily want to wait on the deck to have it, everything that I've created is on my shop in one way, shape, or form, whether they are poster prints or canvas prints. I also offer them, I offer three of the images as journals, which is really nice. Again, with the intention of channeling whatever that card meaning is to the purpose of the journal. So, for instance, I have the Hermit as one of the journals so that you can be purposefully introspective. Not to say that this is limited to that, but that's the idea, right? And then I have the High Priestess, and I also have Judgment, which are, to me, are all cards that deal with your intuition and sort of looking within and expressing yourself on paper. So I have those as journals as well. So I have all of that, all of those items and all of those odds and ends on my website. So if that's something that you're interested in, if you like it, I would recommend picking it up. Now, just to segue a little bit, because our grandmother is wearing yellow, some of that is also going to pick up in actually, I'm going to pull it from my Knight of Cups, but some of that's going to actually show up in her cup as well, because that is something that is could be reflecting from the side of this cup. And we can go on and actually move some of this up like so, and then we'll erase what we can or what we don't need, and then we'll go from there. So again, if you're watching this live or you're watching the replay, I appreciate you for being here. I'm always excited to see you guys in the chat. I'm always humbled to see the people who are resonating with this work, right? Because again, I'm very much betting on myself, and I do have like those moments of not knowing whether or not this is the right path. It feels the right path, feels like the right path. It definitely feels like a compulsion to work on the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. Oh, what did I do? Definitely feels like something I feel called to do. I feel pulled to do. Even when there are moments like last year, I only got one card done. One card the entirety of 2024. And that was the Page of Swords. And I had creator's block. I had life, and it was just a tough year, right? But come, I think later on, no, I take that back. I did more than one card. I'm tripping. That was 2023. I did one card of 2023. 2024 came around, and I was like, okay, look here, we're gonna have to set up some time, and there thus began the series of Paint with Me Live. So again, I'm really happy to have you all here because it makes my day. Alrighty, I think this has got to be the amazing stuff. So I mislabeled one of my layers. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing, right? I'm going to go to my Maiden's Cup. I am going to add any special details that I think would help solidify and sort of bring together this scene so that they're not just cups. They actually do make sense to the scene. With the Mother's Cup, I kind of want to fix this, but I'll get to that in a little while. The Grandmother's Cup, I really love that it picks up that yellow. And so with the Maidens, and actually it would pick up blue because she's wearing blue. But with the Maiden's Cup, we're going to do the same thing. All right, so I'm rambling just a little bit. All right, so I'm going to go into this. And again, she is closer to our main character. So this cup is going to pick up a little more of that light, a little more of that glow. So we're going to add that here. And I think in this case, I think I'm just going to emphasize some of that white. And we're going to add a new layer so I don't mess anything up. And as soon as it auto saves, we'll go ahead and add that in. So for those of you who are art buffs, I am working in Clip Studio Paint, specifically version 1. Now there are 4 versions now of Clip Studio Paint. I am working on in version 1. I think I began in Clip Studio 2019. Prior to that, I was working in Photoshop, but not even the subscription Photoshop. Like I had a old school CS5 Photoshop on my computer, along with all of the other Adobe products. And that's what I drew in, right? So when I came to, it was time for me to sort of switch over because the CS5 was no longer compatible with my computer, which meant that I was going to have to go to the subscription model, which was absolutely not. I had tried out a couple of digital painting programs, including Corel Painter, which I really like the texture of, but as a program, I'm not a fan of. And then I tried Clip Studio Paint, and I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. It was a nice, easy transition from Photoshop into Clip Studio. Of course, every program has a bit of a learning curve. This one is mostly shortcuts, right? It's mostly the shortcuts. When we're doing digital work, your shortcuts are going to be shortcuts allow you to cycle through options without having to go actual options to find those, right? So for instance, if I want to hit, if I want to switch to a brush, I'll hit B. If I want to switch to a pen, I'll hit P. If I want to, move something around, I'll hit K button. That's the hiccup because on Photoshop it's V, right? So there are few little odds and ends that you kind of have to get used to. I like Clip Studio because it also has this little remote, which is supposed to be handy for making it easier. I have not spent enough time working with this in order to get sort of as fast as I am with my keyboard, but it does help because like anything else, time is money. And if you can sort of cut out some of that cycling through the menus, for instance, I had it in Smudge and I wanted to bring back a brush. I just hit B, right? I just hit B to do that. And it helps out a lot. With Corel Painter, because it's its own thing, it has its own set of shortcuts, and it's nothing near what I'm already used to, right? Most programs, especially if they're computer programs, all work about the same. Okay, PL says there's an echo. All right, PL, I tell you what, I think that we've had a lot of issues with our audio today, and I know I'm running off at the mouth. And it's been about a good hour and 15 minutes. So I think we're going to call this a live stream. So again, if you are watching this live or the replay, I really, really appreciate you for being here. Special shout out to Black Zetsu and PL for letting me know about the audio. I'm really appreciative of that because, again, I have no idea. So I'm going to continue to work here. And then next week, fingers crossed, child. Fingers crossed, we'll be on a new card. So I appreciate you again so much. If you have any questions or anything, please leave them down in the description. Not in the description, leave them in the comments below. If you're in the chat, please let me know that you're here so that I know that you're here so I can give you a shout out as well. And then until next week, I hope you guys have a happy, creative, and prosperous week. Peace.